Cloud computing, it's a big thing. According to my research sources, which include the research firms Gartner and Forrester, publications Datamation, some websites called Mission Cloud, SitePoint, and some research of my own on the various cloud providers, it's very, very popular. The remarkable thing about the information that I've found is that there's a lot of consensus between the researchers. Usually you get some conflicts and differences of opinions. Not in this case. So why is the cloud a big thing? Well, it lets you try before you buy. You can experiment and fail fast and figure out what you're doing with a very minimum startup investment. The reason you can do that is because you can provision these resources in minutes instead of the months that it usually takes you to set up your own on-premise equipment. It's a pay-as-you-go model, which means that you're spending money out of your expense budget instead of your capital budget. That's favorable for tax reasons and often a lot easier to manage within the internal politics of an organization. And scale ceases to be a concern. You can start off tinkering in a garage with 2 people, and you can scale to be a Fortune 100 company, and the cloud handles all of that. It can even do it automatically if your computing load varies from day to day or minute to minute. And if you're clever about it, you can save a boatload of money. There is a training provider called A Cloud Guru. They have tens of thousands of students online at any given time. Their computing bill is less than $500 a month because they're very clever about how they use the services. Now there are people who don't particularly feel comfortable with the cloud. They worry about security, letting the data outside of their own perimeter. They wonder about runaway costs, and this is a valid concern. As you've heard, if you manage it right, it's very cheap. If you don't, it can get away from you in a hurry. And availability, will it be there when I need it? Well, the cloud providers all have good answers to these various concerns. But I want to talk about 4 main computing models. The one is the traditional one, do everything on premise. You manage everything from power and cooling and storage and everything. And eventually you get to the point where you can actually do something for your enterprise or your business or your government. And to do that, you need a full stack of not only computing resources, but staff to run them, people with all the expertises in the different areas. If you were getting your pizza this way, this would be equivalent to having cows in your backyard to get the cheese and growing the wheat. And you do all of this stuff, and eventually you actually get to bake your pizza and then you get to eat it. The 3 popular cloud models are known as infrastructure as a service, where the vendor basically gives you a virtual machine and you put an operating system and the libraries and your software and your data and so forth on it. And that's great if you're an IT administrator used to working that way. The pizza analogy there is a frozen pizza or a Costco take and make. Somebody actually prepares the pizza for you, but it's still up to you to take it to where you can cook it, prepare it, serve it, eat it, clean up after it. Next layer is platform as a service. This is where the vendor provides facilities sufficient for you to just put your application and your data on it. They handle the operating system, the middleware, the libraries, all of that sort of stuff. This is where you call somebody up and have a pizza delivered to your house. It's ready to eat, but you still have to provide the table and the silverware and the soda and the napkin and so forth and so on. Finally, there's software as a service. Think your Gmails and your Salesforces. All you're doing here is just being a user, unlike platform as a service, which is principally aimed at developers. Here, you're going to the restaurant. You're not bothering with any of this stuff other than actually doing what it is you need to do. And it's great if you're just an end user and you just want to get something done. There are several public clouds out there. 3 dominate. They are Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and the Google Cloud Platform. Each of those is a Gartner leader, which means that they have a combination of the vision to provide the service and the ability to execute it. They are the only 3 who have made that quadrant. Google is the last to get there and is just barely in it, but they're coming on really strong. Each of these providers has competencies in those areas. Amazon Web Services is very strong in the infrastructure as a service thing. They're the big kahuna. Anything you want to do, you can do in Amazon. The catch is, it's tricky to figure out how to do it. The service catalog is massive, and it changes on a weekly basis, so there's a lot to keep up with. And as a result, the pricing can be very complicated and tough to manage. Azure is more of a platform as a service. They have extensive database and application offerings, including the Microsoft Office suite. Their challenge is that their non-Windows support is a little weak. And surprisingly for Microsoft, Gartner says that their enterprise support is weak. The Google Cloud Platform is more of a software as a service, and it's designed originally for cloud native businesses as opposed to the others, which are designed principally for businesses migrating to the cloud. According to Forrester, they actually have the strongest security profile of the lot.
Wow.
A little surprising to hear about Google, partly because they control the entire hardware stack. They do a lot with their own custom chips. They have the smallest service catalog of the three, though, and a much smaller market share than the other two. So what does it all mean? Which way do you go? Well, the crux of the matter is you do not have to choose. You can migrate fully to the public cloud if you want to, or you can run a hybrid deployment where you keep some on-premise and some not. Or you can start off in the cloud originally if you're starting afresh. But because they are all connected by the biggest cloud of all, the internet, you do not have to choose. Most enterprises can and do pick and choose based on the particular needs that they have, and put some resources in this cloud, some resources in that cloud, keep some within this. It's a big space out there, and it's transformative. Mr. Toastmaster.